The healing journey is not linear, and so many people are embarking on this journey, and in the ups and downs they feel very lost or stuck, or like they're getting it completely wrong, and this very often isn't the case. And so in this video I wanted to talk about 9 stages of healing that I have sketched out, and each healing journey is unique, but there tends to be these sort of archetypal stages that we go through, and it can be really helpful to have some idea of these ups and downs, so that when you're in one of the downs you kind of have the motivation to continue because you know it's part of the overall process. So of these 9 stages, any one of them can last from days to years, and no one of them is any better than any other. And in fact, they're really a loop, as you'll see. They just loop round and round and round. And we keep going through these same stages, just at deeper and deeper levels. You'll also find that they can unfold in sort of micro or macro scales. So at a micro scale, you might go through all 9 stages in a few weeks with some particular topic or area. But at some broader level, you're going through those stages over a course of years with kind of at a higher level, zoomed out a little bit more. The process that takes us through this I call cosmic squeezing. I've noticed that, the universe has this contraction and expansion movement at its heart. And when it comes to the healing journey, this is no different. We find ourselves getting squeezed by the universe. We'll go through some period of difficulty. And that can, again, last days, years, can look all kinds of ways. But when we eventually meet it, we'll notice there's an expansion afterwards. And it's like, you burst through to the other side where there's, into the land of milk and honey with rainbows and unicorns, and you feel great for a while, but then the natural process is to come back to squeezing. So people get surprised when they suddenly, it's like, I thought I fixed all my issues, and then some more come up. It's like, no, this is the process, right, of this continual contraction and expansion, and going through challenge and then getting the reward, going through challenge, growing and developing, going through challenge, and so on. Let's jump into these stages. The first one is the dawn of awareness. This is where there's some difficulty, symptom, problem in your life that you are drawn to, and you are finally getting the motivation together to start to address it. It's been niggling away at you for years, and this can be really intense. Some people might be an alcoholic for a decade, and then finally the dawn of awareness comes. It's like, okay, actually I need to do something about this, right? This is critical, right? This is the beginning of the whole journey. However, at this point, typically there isn't much understanding of the actual issue. It's a very surface level issue. So it's concerned with the symptom and not the root. So with drinking, for example, that person might be, okay, I need to stop drinking, right? They're not concerned with what's driving the drinking or healing any deeper issues. It's like, okay, I just want to drink less. But this is great. This is the start of the healing journey. Then you get into stage 2. I call it the brook of dabbling. This is where you start to sort of curiously just sort of meander about, trying to get some clues as to how you might be able to resolve this issue. You might read some books, go see some teachers, do some courses, ask some friends. You're trying to get a clearer sense of the lay of the land, both in terms of understanding your own problem and the range of solutions. It's like, do I need to do more exercise? Do I need to do psychology? Do I need to do self-help? Do I need to change my lifestyle? Do I need to move to a different city? Do I need to, quit my relationship? Where do we start? So we're trying to get our bearings here. And again, we're not really going deep in any particular area. We're just trying to, pick up these clues and these nuggets here and there. Then comes stage 3. I call this circling the pit. This is where we feel like we stumble on something that resonates with us. It's like, this is the one. This is the direction I need to go in. There's something that calls us when you meet a teacher, or there's some book or some particular idea. You're like, this is the one for me. But there are deep protective mechanisms, unconscious mechanisms which within us that will stop us from diving into it. And so this is why I call it circling the pit. We've kind of found that root issue and our approach to it, but we end up sort of going round and round the houses. We might just, attend a workshop here, or we talk about it, or we journal a little about it here and there. But because real healing involves root and branch change, when we start to approach that, it's just so terrifying to our nervous system. That level of pain is just too difficult to face. And so what we're trying to do here in this circling the pit stage is we're trying to solve the problem without really going to the root of the issue, without really having to change very much. This is the key. At this point, we try to change without really changing. And we have to try that out for a while until we realize that it's not going to work. So this phase is where we're kind of tiptoeing towards our pain, developing some skills and understanding, and also seeing that we can't actually really progress without truly meeting ourselves. And this can last for years. And that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We might need a long time to tiptoe towards these kinds of things. And most people actually kind of get stuck here, in my experience. At this stage, they're forever kind of circling their issues and nibbling away at the edge, but never really able to dive into them. And that's where we get into stage 4, the dive within. This is where we start to meet ourselves directly. This is the critical characteristic of this stage, which is probably the most important one. Although they need to come in sequence. It's like the rungs of a ladder. You can't have one without the other. But we actually acknowledge and surrender to the truth that we have to meet ourselves directly, that we have to approach our pain, and that we have to change deeply on some level in order to really transform ourselves. We have, with our dabbling and circling, built up some skills, some knowledge that we can use here. And in this phase, often our life becomes quite intensely focused on this process, right? This is why I call it the dive. It's like we tend to actually just really, really dive into this stuff, and we do the work. We simply do the work that we have been avoiding, and that we, are not through any fault of our own, because we didn't have the skills, the understanding, and there was just too much resistance. But this is where the core work is done. And again, this can be a long period of time, and it's very helpful to have support in these phases, and there will be breaks and pauses. It's not some relentless slog, but we are meeting ourselves. Stage 5, the trough of disillusionment. So this is when we're doing our dive within, and at first it can be going really, really well. It's like, okay, great. I'm feeling this pain, and there's spaciousness afterwards. That cosmic squeeze is really squeezing and expanding. We're like, we feel the pain, but we really feel the expansion afterwards. But then at some point we hit a really deep cosmic squeeze, right? And we feel just like we're really stuck at the bottom of that cosmic squeeze. We feel like we're trapped, like something has gone wrong. It can start to think like, I must have done something wrong. I'm missing something here. Maybe we feel much worse for a time, or we start realizing like how big a task is before us, like how much pain we're actually carrying with us. And we can just start to lose faith in the process. We can start to panic. We can start to doubt. So this is a really critical stage too. Almost everyone comes up against this at some point. It's like you're in, maybe there's some really bad physical illness that you're going through. I've had that a couple of times. And you just start to doubt whether you're going to be okay, or whether this process works at all. And we can grasp and panic at this stage. Maybe some people would buy a gazillion different courses, or they buy 20 books, or they reach out for all kinds of like alternative medicines, and you start taking 35 different supplements. And this is all okay, it's almost unavoidable, but we'll start panicking and just grabbing solutions, just trying stuff out almost willy-nilly in our pure desperation to find some way through this cosmic squeeze. There's often a deep helplessness. And the purpose of this stage, however, is to teach us to be able to meet that helplessness, I found. There comes a point where you have to surrender to it. For me, like at the end of the last year, for example, I had a few months of being incredibly ill. And there's a few moments where I just had to break down in tears. Total helplessness. I didn't know what to do. I was sick. I didn't know how to recover. I could barely, or at some points couldn't do my work. I was living alone, working alone. I felt very alone. And I just broke down. I had to just sit in that helplessness. And I've been resisting that. I don't want to pretend like during this period I was, being super present and, really effective in my emotional work. I was resisting it. I was zoning out, watching TV all day in my illness. But it just forced me eventually to come to the brink and just meet that helplessness. And in that way, you slowly start to move through. Then you come to stage 6. And actually, before we jump onto that, just my sympathy, my heart goes out to you if you're in stage 5, the trough of disillusionment. It can be savage. But the savageness is precisely proportionate to the expansion in stage 6, the meadows of healing. This is when this deep squeeze finally releases and we step forward into a beautiful healing space. The freedom and spaciousness of that, whatever pain has moved through us, and we're relieved of that burden. And the hard work pays off. I call this like a breadcrumb for the universe, right? And it's really important to enjoy these moments. Just when you walk down the street and you just feel so good, it like life makes sense and you feel like it's all worthwhile. And it's this little reward for doing the work, for meeting yourself, for surrendering. And the universe will give us lots of these breadcrumbs to slowly move us along our path, so to speak. And that's why it's important to notice them and enjoy them, because it kind of builds trust in the process. Because over time, you'll notice you go through this process again and again. You'll go through the trough of disillusionment many times. And it really helps if you've gone through a few times before and you know that on the other side it will be better than it was before and that you will be okay. Because you will. And so in this way, also, we can accelerate, as we build the trust, we can accelerate this process, because when I notice that I'm resisting myself, resisting the next step, that's the most agonizing part of the whole process. And so if you know that if you meet yourself, you go into the meadows of healing afterwards, it gives you the motivation to be like, okay, I'm going to try and meet myself as quickly as I can. I'm going to try and learn the lessons as quickly as I can, because then the pain is short and sharp, but we go into the expansion afterwards. Whereas if we're wallowing around in the trough, we can be there for a long time and it's very painful. So it really helps to notice this pattern, which is entirely why I'm shooting this video. Then we get to stage 7, the landing place. This is a very interesting one, because you can be in the meadows of healing for a while. You're in this place of expansion. Maybe life feels good. Things are flowing pretty well. But what will happen is your ego will start to use that place as like a landing place. That becomes the new default. And the strategies and techniques and approaches that you've used to get to that point will start to become obsolete, because the ego will start to find ways around them. So let me give you an example. So this is a good example, actually. I've had this in my own life. So you say you've learned to feel some of your feelings, right? And that's healed some of your pain. That can be really, really incredibly powerful. I mean, that's the most powerful thing there is that I've ever found, is like truly feeling your feelings. Incredibly potent work. I've dedicated my career to it now, and life pretty much. Astonishing. However, I noticed at certain points that I would try to get around meeting certain aspects of life by feeling my feelings. So say I needed to stand up for myself or speak out in some way. I noticed that I wouldn't, because I was afraid of it, and I would just try and feel and process that sense of being trapped or the negative feelings of me not standing up for myself. So I would use the techniques to try and justify, again, this sort of hiding away in a way that disempowered me, because I was afraid of speaking up. But it's like, I'm not afraid of speaking up. I'm just going to process this, whatever this comes up as a result of not speaking up, and then I'll be cool. And I can just do that forever, and I won't have to ever speak up. But I had to notice, this is a new trap that's emerged, and now I need to find another way of empowering myself to speak up. I can't just feel my feelings. There has to be some forward movement as well. So there's a phrase here I like by me. Every key to our being eventually becomes a lock to deeper levels. So whatever key you found, whatever set of techniques or approach or ideas, that becomes a key that opens a door to a deeper level of your own being. But as you just hang out there, it starts to ossify, and your ego starts to build around it, and it becomes a new rigidity, a new lock that you then need a new key to open. And in this way, it keeps things fresh, and you keep unlocking different aspects of yourself that each require different keys. So at this point, you're going around you're cruising pretty nicely. Maybe you're watching out for those landing places. Then you hit stage 8. This is the crisis of deepening. This is where, you might be feeling pretty good. Things are going fairly well. At some point, I don't know why. Maybe it's because on an unconscious level, you want it, you intend it. It might just be, it just happens to you. But you get pushed deeper by a massive crisis. Again, it could be some financial crisis, very often a health crisis. It might be big, it might be small, it could be in any domain of life. Typically, it will occur in exactly the way that you do not want it to occur. So you'll be like, I'll give you an example from my own life. I was like, yeah, throw all the feelings at me. I can deal with that. Just, if there's a load of shame or anger that needs to come up, give me a big crisis of that and I can deal with it. Then I had this massive illness. And it just was absolutely not how I wanted my crisis to go. My ego wanted this journey to happen on my terms, and it absolutely did not. And it happened in a way that meant I could barely function. I couldn't live my life the way I wanted to. And this really put a bee in my bonnet. I've written in my notes here. It feels like it's getting in the way of the path. That's exactly it. You notice that you're like, this is my path, and I'm doing my path, and this thing will go. And you're like, no, this is getting in the way of my path. But no, it precisely is the path. It's just happening in the way you don't want it to happen, which is why it's so effective. And we tend, therefore, to really strongly resist this thing, whatever it is, this crisis. We'll really resist it with every bone in our body because it's like, no, it's not supposed to be happening this way. And that's precisely this mechanism working. It's bringing up the deepest point of resistance within you to be processed and integrated, like with me and my health and the big, the various moments of breaking down and surrendering that I had. And this is, again, a situation where the sooner you're able to recognize it and meet it, the sooner it will be over. So it's helpful to try and notice the crisis. Okay, what do I need to learn from this? What do I need to feel? What do I need to do? And getting with as much kindness as you can to yourself, respect your limits here. Like I had to absolutely respect my physical limits when I was going through this, and getting help and support from people who love you, or from trusted allies on the path, is going to be indispensable here. So really lean on your support networks. You do not have to do it alone. In that crisis of deepening, it can be savage, and you will need support. So go find it. Then you get stage 9. I call this the strange loop. A strange loop is some hierarchical system that, whether we move upwards or downwards through it, we eventually find ourselves back where we began. So it's like an infinite maze that always leads back to itself. Like an MC Escher drawing. He has this drawing of a waterfall that falls down, and it drops into the river that leads to the waterfall again. And this is kind of what happens. As we go through this journey, we become much more aware. Through those 9 stages, we learn a huge amount. But then we essentially come into some new domain. We suddenly become aware of some new problem again that we previously was too subtle or sophisticated for us to notice. We didn't have the consciousness. It just wasn't in our world space that this thing was a problem. And bam, we find ourselves back at stage 1, the dawn of awareness, where our awareness dawns on some new category of issue, because our mind is now more expanded, more conscious. We're able to see new things, and so new problems present themselves. So in this way, the healing journey never ends. We're going round and round and round, becoming more and more conscious and aware, and whole and authentic and alive and happy and joyous and all those wonderful, wonderful things as we go around. So a few final tips. You do have to tailor your path to you. So these are 9 archetypal stages, but it'll be a little bit different for you. So you've got to find your own unique path for sure. But you can also use that idea, oh, this is just my unique path, just to remain stuck and avoid things for decades. It's like, I'm not avoiding anything. This is just my unique path. It just really resonates with me to do this, to just waft off over here for ages. It's like, okay, be careful. Watch out for those holy grails and landing places. I didn't mention that in the landing places part, but actually one of the part of the landing places is the holy grail. This idea that, okay, this is the one teacher or the one teaching that I need. I just need to stick with this one teacher or teaching forever and everything will be fine. This is this idea that, the holy grail, you just need this one thing. It is not so. That can make up a big part of your path, but you will need other resources, other approaches. Complacency will receive a nudge, and the more quickly you can acknowledge that nudge and respond, the less you will suffer. I know this from very hard experience, but you'll get nudged a lot. In some areas of my life, I cling on for years, and eventually I'm forced to surrender something. And just knowing that this will happen, the sooner you can surrender or you can respond, the less nudging will be required. There's this idea that I got from Andrew Hewson, who's a spiritual teacher. It's maximum extraction from minimum contrast. What this means is that you don't need to have a massive crisis necessarily to learn what you need to learn. If you have a small crisis, but you're able to extract all the juice from that, you're able to really learn what you needed to learn, and you use that to go really deep in yourself. You can extract everything you need with a minimum of contrast, with a minimum of, crisis. Lastly, healing is very messy. It's a confusing, contradictory, backsliding, loopy, strange, loopy, sort of mess of uncertainty. You're never really sure exactly where you are. So good luck. But it is a wonderful, beautiful thing. And, so much growth and joy. And the beauty of life is revealed through this process. And it is just a very satisfying way to live life ultimately. I don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing this work. Just life would seem so dry and boring, I think, challenging as it is. So good luck. If you need some one-on-one support with someone who has walked the path before you, particularly when it comes to emotional processing and sort of deprogramming the nervous system, it's my areas of expertise, then please reach out with the links below, and I'll see you later.